Hi folks, it's Dave, and you might notice that it is just me today. We've got no Ben. He sends his regards, but he can't be with us today for this video because he's incredibly busy with some schoolwork, so he sends his regards. I'm sure that you all send your best wishes. I'll let him know. So it's just me, and today we've got something a little bit different. This is not going to be a FUZE tutorial, so we're not really going to be writing any, well, much, if any, code. This is a video which was requested by somebody on the FUZE arena, and as soon as I saw the idea I thought, that is a brilliant idea. This could really help a lot of people, so thank you so much to the user who brings us the awesome FUZE Fridays video series called SwitchedOn, and you can find his YouTube channel in the description below. SwitchedOn is the name of it, and he's doing awesome Nintendo Switch game reviews, including FUZE Fridays, where he is taking a FUZE project further and further every Friday and sort of guiding you along his journey of creating a game in FUZE. He's also on the arena and already a very valued member of the community, so shout outs to you, dude. Thank you for the idea. Right, this is a tips and tricks video, which is designed to maybe make things a little bit faster for you, make your whole workflow process a bit more seamless. That's a buzzword that gets thrown around a lot, workflow, because you want to be spending more time thinking about the concepts and thinking how you can improve your game and improving it rather than, you know, spending a lot of time typing the same thing out again and again. Now, of course, there are ways that you can get around all this in code, but there are a lot of things that you can do in FUZE that you might not be aware of yet, and that's what this video is for. So just to extend this introduction slightly, and we will get into it very soon, I promise, there are going to be 3 sections to this video. First of all, we are going to look at keyboard shortcuts, which includes a USB keyboard. If you're using a USB keyboard in FUZE, this will help you out, and also the on-screen keyboard that you will see appear when we go into our code window. And that also applies to the touch input as well. Obviously, I can't really demonstrate the touch input because I can't just press the wall behind me, and I can't take the Switch out of the dock, otherwise you'll just see a green screen, and we don't want that. But it all applies still to the touch input. The second section is going to look at being in the editor and some ways that you can use the Joycons to make your whole workflow process a bit faster. Also looking at maybe the bookmark system and this sort of thing. The third section is going to look at the help content in FUZE and ways that you can, just do some nifty things to maybe get in and out of the help quicker and more effectively, and bring code from the help into your projects quickly and edit it. I think that covers all the sections. What we're going to do is put timestamps in the video so that you can jump to the section that's most relevant for you. Of course, might be worth watching the whole video because there might be something that you don't know in here. But if you already are totally comfortable with the editor, totally comfortable with the keyboard shortcuts, for example, but you just want some information on the help, then feel free to just jump to the timestamp in the description below for the help section or whatever section you need. Okay, I've rambled on long enough. Let's actually get into the video. So I've got a program here that I made earlier, and it's called Tips and Tricks. There it is. Let's open that up. Now, it doesn't really matter what the code itself is. I'll just make it nice and big so you can see. It's just a simple Hello World-like program that prints hello on the screen. There it is. Brilliant. We've all seen this. But it's not important for this. Let's have a little talk about the keyboard for a second. And we'll start with the USB keyboard and get all of that out of the way, because there are a few things here that we need to go over. We might as well start at the very top of the keyboard, looking at the function keys, which, if that's a new term to you, don't worry. I'm just referring to these F keys. They're also known as F keys. At the very top of the keyboard, F1, F2, F3, etc., etc. And most of them, not all, most of them do something particular in FUZE, and they make something happen. So let's start with F1. If I press F1 while I'm in the editor, I will go to the help. This will just bring up the in-editor help window. Now, we will cover how to use this in-editor help window in much more detail when we get into that help section at the end. For now, F1 also closes that window. F2 will take you to the media library, just there, and you can press escape to go back, just like that. F3 will save your program, and you can see that the FUZE save icon appears there. I'll just do it again so you can see. Take a look at the top. right of your screen, and there it is. If you see that icon, everything's fine. Your program is saved, and in fact, when you run a program, even if you might not see that icon appear, as soon as you run a program, FUZE saves your program. So even if there's errors or anything like that, don't worry, it's all saved. But it's also a good idea to make copies of your programs. I'll get into that now, this is a tangent. Where were we? That's F3. F4 is not functional. F5 is simply just run. So it's the same as pressing your plus button on your Joy-Con. You can press F5 to run the program, and also F5 to stop and return to the editor again. Now F6 and F7 are interesting ones. You can press F6 and this will open the image editor for FUZE. Now it takes you straight into selecting a project. So if you're not familiar with the image editor, I do recommend having a look at the getting started section of the help. I'll put a little link in the description actually to the image editor PDF document that you can have a read of online. It's a big document showing everything that you can do, but it tells you why you've got this whole situation where you have to select a project. All the images are in projects, so when you press F6 from your code, it's a fast way of just going straight to the image editor. You can choose a project, you can copy images from one to another, or you can work on them. Let's press escape to go back and into the code here. Okay, F7 is just like F6 with the image editor, but it's the map editor. Now, it takes you to the project maps for this current project. I don't have any project maps in here, so it's just showing nothing. So let's go back. But if you had some maps in there, then you'd be able to press F7, go into it, and jump into the map editor, make some changes, come back, that sort of thing. F8, I'm going to need reminding, is the settings menu, of course. It's hard to remember all of these ones, but yeah, F8 is the settings menu. So from here, you can adjust the various settings in FUZE. You can go into sound, you can turn everything down. Master volume controls everything. Interface volume is just those little beeps and this sort of noise. You can also turn the keyboard sounds on and off from there. You've got a bunch of different settings in here. I recommend taking a look and seeing what you can do. I do like the appearance part because you can change FUZE's theme, and I'm currently using one of the themes that I really like, so I'm not going to change it. I quite like it how it is. Let's return from here, go back to our code. And I believe, so that was F8. F9 is not functional, and F10 will take you back to the main menu. Actually, F9 is functional, I beg your pardon. F9 will take you to the code editor. So it didn't show you anything there because I was already in the code editor. So for example, if I press F10, go to the main menu, from here I might decide that I want to go to the help. So if I press F1, we're going to go into the proper full help screen. So if you're in the main menu and you press F1, you will go to the proper full help display. From here I might decide, I want to jump back to the code, so I'll press F9 and we're back in our code. I might go back to the main menu, jump to the image editor, whatnot. So these are very nice fast ways of getting around, and it is probably worth mentioning as well. Let's just go to the code. As soon as I leave the editor, the program is saved. So if I, for example, go back to the main menu with F10, you can see that the save icon does not appear, but believe me, it has saved. That is just a given. So anytime that you leave the editor, the program is saved. So don't worry, trust. Hopefully everything will be fine. Okay. I think that about covers it for the function keys. So let's get on with the other sorts of keyboard shortcuts that you can do. Now you might already be familiar with these. A lot of them are just conventional. In fact, for those function keys, F3, F1 and F5, they all tend to be used for the same things that we've got them here. So F1 is help in a lot of different applications. F3 is save in a lot of different terminal windows and old computers, and F5 similarly saves. So these are conventional, it's not something that we've just randomly decided we wanted to do. And I was going to talk about the other keyboard shortcuts. So you might be aware of things already like the control shortcuts, so control plus something. So let's just highlight some text. If I hold down the shift key and then use the arrow keys, I can move my cursor around, and now we're highlighting text. I can move it down and we will select all of the text on screen if we want to do that. And you can also keep holding shift and unselect things, deselect things, by moving back over that portion. So if you've selected too much, you can go back and change things. Okay, let's just highlight that line. Now what I could do is hold down Control, and from there I've got a bunch of different options. So let's do something drastic first. Let's just get rid of it. If I hold down Control and X, I will cut that line, and now it's been cut with Control and X. It's now added to the clipboard, and I can paste it back in. So if I hold down Control and then press V, that's the letter V, that will paste it back in. Now that's just a standard keyboard shortcut. Same with Control and C. So I can do that, select it all, Control C. As you can see, when I've copied something to the clipboard, that deselects all of the text, as now it's in the clipboard, and paste will now just paste my string in there. Okay, that's all standard. I'm sure that quite a few of you have already heard about these and are familiar with them. Let's just get back here and bring the camera. Okay, brilliant. Now what you might not know is about the Control, undo and redo. So if I press Control and then press Z, that will undo. Now that one was just a cursor change, so not really anything big happening there. But if I press it again, we're going to delete things, and I can bring it back. Control Z will undo things. So let's say, for example, that I just highlight all this and get rid of it, and I mistakenly did that. I can press Control Z and bring it all back. What if you decide that actually I didn't want to undo, I want to redo what I've just done? This one varies depending on the system that you're using, but for Fuse it is Control, Shift and the letter Y. So if you're holding Control and holding Shift, press Y and you'll get a redo command. So that's undo and redo. I think I'm not missing anything else there. They're all the sort of standard ones. Anything else? Yes, okay. On the keyboard, this one isn't so common in other things, but if you don't want to have to hold down Shift as you're selecting text, perhaps you've got a lot of text to select and you don't really want to wear your finger out by holding down Shift, you can simply press the Alt key once. And now that I've pressed Alt, that toggles the selection on and off. And that will just work like I'm holding down Shift. I can press Alt again, and that will be like I've let go of Shift. Okay, so hopefully that covers that. There are a couple of other keys that I want to mention here, which are used all the time in the Fuse workshops just to help me get around code quickly. And to be honest, I say workshops, it's just something that you should get into the habit of doing because it's really, really helpful. You probably already know about them, but they are the home and end keys, and these are really useful. When you are on a line of code, if you press the end key, you will jump your cursor to the very end of the line. This is confusing because the cursor is moving that way, but for me it would be moving. You get what I'm saying. End key jumps the cursor to the end of the line. Home key jumps the cursor to the start of the line. So if you've got a really, really long line of text, let's say that your string was huge, and now you want to change the name of that string, press home and you're at there. And if you want to change the last character, press end and you've jumped to the end. Let's just Control Z that because it's quite an ugly looking string. So let's get rid of that. Okay, so that's home and end. Actually, one last thing on the home and end keys. You can double tap the home or end key to jump to the top or very, very bottom of your program. So if I double tap end, I've gone down to the very last line. And if I double tap home, I've gone up to the very top. Not too useful in a program this size when we've already got 10 lines of code, if that, about 8 lines. But in some of the Fuse demo programs, or when you've got a massive project and you're looking at 2,000, 3,000 lines, and you want to edit a function that you've got at the very, very bottom, double tap end takes you to the very end. Okay, that one is really, really helpful. I think that about goes over that. Let's have a quick look at the touch keyboard. So I'm going to pick up my Joy-Cons and move around this cursor here. Now, everything I say now will apply to both using the keyboard like this, so if I'm pressing the A button on letters and inputting them, also applies to when you are tapping on these keys using the touch input. So this is a bit more obvious because the keys are just named. So as you can see in the bottom left, you might be able to see that. Hopefully I'm not too in the way. You've got select, which behaves like the Alt button on the keyboard. So if I press select, I can now move around and it's behaving as though I'm holding down Shift or like I've already pressed Alt. When I've got some text selected, I can use the cut, copy and paste buttons here to do exactly what you would imagine. Right? So press select, do all of that, copy it to clipboard, paste, 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 and get a total mess. I can also undo, again, like this. Now, there is not a Fuse keyboard button here for undo, because, short on real estate. There are a few things here that you do want to have access to, but thankfully there's a really handy Joycon way of doing undo and redo, and we'll get into that in the next section. Okay, let me just undo this. There we go. And I think we're back to where we were. Excellent. So as you can see over here, we've got the media and help buttons. If I press help, I'm just opening up that in editor help menu, and you can see here that while I've got this, my cursor is on either this window or this window, and you can change that with the direction buttons. And when you're on this window here on the left, press B to exit. Let me just clear the clipboard as well, get that back up there, and if I press media, we're taken to the media. It's exactly the same as pressing F2. Okay, that is all that. Oh, and up there in the top left, you've got the run button. So it's the same as F5, just runs the program. And I can press F5 on the keyboard to come back out of that, or I could press the plus button. And one last thing on the touch keyboard is if you're holding down the ZL key, and you can see on the command bar here at the very, very bottom, you might not be able to see because we've got me in the way in the keyboards, but take a look on your copy of Fuse and you can see all the different buttons. ZL says caps. Now really it's a form of shift, but you can see that when you hold down ZL, you've got extra functionality. Both you've got undo and redo there, which we'll cover later, and you've got some capital letters and some different characters. So you can see that you've got the $sign, the pound sign, all different things. The helpful ones though are these ones. If you want to do minus equals and plus equals, so if you wanted to do a plus equals 1, so variable increased by 1, instead of going plus and then equals, you can just hold ZL and press plus equals. And there's one for minus equals, there's one for plus equals, times equals, and divide equals. Let's go back there. And you've also got the less than or equal to signs, and greater than or equal to signs, just to save you having to move around and press multiple things. Okay, so that's all we want to do on the keyboard. Let's now move on to the editor section, and there's lots of things in here that I want to get to. So sort of following on from what we just talked about with the keyboard, with copy, paste, replace and delete. There is a way of doing this, and you might have seen me do this when me and Ben are editing the code, using just the Joy-Cons. And it all involves the ZL and the ZR keys. Now, as I say, the command bar, not super visible for you, but if you hold down either ZL or ZR, you will see that some things change. So let's start with undo and redo. If I hold down ZL, you can see that undo and redo here appear on the command bar. And now I can press R to undo or ZR to redo. So I'll just demonstrate that so it's nice and clear. Highlight everything, get rid of it. Oh dear. Okay, so hold down ZL, press the R button to undo that, or if I decide I don't want it, I can press ZR and redo that mistake. Okay, so that's undo and redo on the Joy-Cons. Copy and paste and all of that is a nice and intuitive one, but it takes a little bit of seeing it in action, I think. Once you get used to it, it's really, really fast and it feels really good, but it's not an easy one to sort of just learn without somebody sort of telling you or by reading the command bar properly. If you hold down ZR, and you can see now that my command bar is showing some different stuff. Hopefully you can see that if I scroll over here. You've got select, copy, cut, paste and delete, and they are all now on the face buttons here. And I can use the direction button to select. So while I'm holding down ZR, I can move up and down here, highlight a bunch of text, I can cut it with X, and if I hold down ZR again, or just keep it held, I can paste it. If I want to copy something, I can hold down ZR while I've selected text, press the Y button to copy it. That's now copied to the clipboard, as you can see in the bottom left. And I can now go to a place and keep pasting it, repeat, 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 repeat. Quite an apt use of the word repeat there. And I can also highlight all of that stuff I've just done, keep it held and press B to delete it. Now when you get used to that, you will find things a lot faster. It's really, really helpful, especially if you're just relaxing on the sofa and you're just typing in a bit of code nice and lazily, and you've done one line, maybe you want to circle function, and you can just sit back and relax and just code to your heart's content using just the Joy-Cons, and then paste things as well. Okay, so that goes over using the Joy-Cons here. At this point, I also want to look at the bookmark system. Now, if you're using the touch screen input, this button in the top right of your screen that says code, and it's a little book with a bookmark folding out there, you can tap that button to bring this menu up. If you are not using the touch input, then you have to click the right stick. And you can see there on the bottom it says click the right stick for bookmarks. So if I press that, we get this menu appearing, and it's allowing me to add a code bookmark. Let's actually first of all get my cursor here. Let's put a bookmark on the main loop. Actually, that tends to be quite a useful one. So if I press the right stick, add a code bookmark, I'm going to press A, and I'll give this the label main loop. I will confirm this with the plus button, and now you can see that this line has sort of highlighted red, and it's got this little bookmark design on it. Now that we've got that, if I click the right stick again and open the bookmarks menu, I can see there's my main loop, and I can jump to that point. So if I'm, for example, I'm on a really, really long program, and I'm down here, I don't know, maybe I've got some functions down here or something, and I decide, oh, hang on, what was it like in the main loop again? I need to see that. Open up the bookmarks, jump to main loop, and you'll see that area of your code. This is a really, really helpful function in FUZE, and I recommend that you get making bookmarks. You can also delete bookmarks very easily from the menu. Just go to the bookmark that you want to delete, and you can press the X button instead of the A button to delete the bookmark. And there it is, it's gone. So it's really easy to add it again if you delete it by mistake, or just to add another one if you want to. The clever thing about them, actually, if I just put that one back at main loop, the clever thing about them is that I can now add lines to the program, and it will keep a record of where that bookmark was. So if my main loop is always going to be here, then that's awesome, because I can just freely add things wherever, and it keeps the bookmark in the right place. So that's the bookmark system. Hopefully that will speed things up for you as well. Let's have a quick look here. Yes, this one I can't demonstrate because I can't do the touch input. But if you are holding your Switch screen like this, and you're using the touch input, I know a lot of people like to do this. I know that Kat likes to code like this, and actually so does John, the manager of FUZE, John Boy on FUZE Arena. You might have seen him on there. He always uses the touch input, and he likes to tap on the screen to put his cursor where you want. And this is a super, super helpful feature, because if you've got a massive program and you're scrolling through the code using the touch input and you decide, I want to just change that value, just tap on the screen where you want that value and it will jump to the right point. Now that actually leads me on nicely to this next part, which is it's quite hard to select the exact point that you want if your code is really, really small on the screen. So to change the size of your text, you can use the L and R shoulder buttons, keep tapping them in different ways, and you can change the size of your text in increments like this. So you can have it really, really tiny if you want to fit a massive array on screen, for example, or you can make it nice and large so that you can select things easily. That's very, very helpful. If you're using the touchscreen input, you can simply use two fingers to zoom in, just as you would on a picture on a phone or that sort of thing. I know that we're all really used to these things now in this day and age, just zoom in. Right, the last thing I want to mention on the editor when writing code is just something that you should be encouraged to do, and lots of people already know how to do this and know about it, but perhaps you don't use them very often. You can put 2 forward slashes in front of a line to add a comment into your code. Some people might know this as a rem, which is short for remark, or just a comment. If you put 2 forward slashes, it just tells FUZE to ignore this line of code. This is the same in pretty much all code editors. So I can now add things in here, and FUZE will ignore it. So I can write anything I want. For example, usually it is used to show the parts of your program that are doing things. So I could say variables are here, set color and size, and here is my main loop. So really helpful. You can even put extra spaces, and using this you can make your code very, very readable. which is, at the end of the day, one of the most important things, especially if you're going to share that project with somebody else and help them learn as well. Now, you might not know that with comments, because you might think, okay, great, okay, that's one line, but I can't be writing a huge line that goes off the screen. What if I want to put comments on multiple lines, and I could say this, and this, right? Now, it's quite a pain to have to put these 2 forward slashes at the start of every line, so what you can do instead, let's just do this. And you can see that it's thinking that I'm actually defining variables and using the word and, because we don't have the comments anymore. But look what happens if I put an asterisk followed by a wrong way around, forward slash followed by an asterisk. That has now commented everything below it. And using this, I can do multiple lines of a comment. And I close it in just the reverse way. So asterisk, forward slash. And as you can see, as soon as I put that, all of the code beneath has now re-highlighted because it knows that that is the end of the comment here. So really, really useful. I know that Ben likes this technique actually. I will just shout him out here. If you put a comment here and a comment here, then you can sort of freely do what you need to do in your program. So I could have this here and I can comment this out to make things happen, to remove the comment. You can get quite clever with this, but I tend to just sort of stick to this here. Okay, I think that about covers what I wanted to cover for the editor. That is all good. Font size, tap cursor, yeah, right. That's it for the editor. Let's now start to look at the help section. And this is probably going to be the most detailed section because there's a few things that you might not know. Let's just get rid of this again and get back to where we were and all these random lines of code. Let's get rid of that too, and there we go. Right. So first of all, as I said before, if you press F1, you've got the in-editor help there. Now you need to be aware that you are always either selecting one or the other window. While your cursor, which is the sort of glowing white border, is around this left-hand box, you are controlling that box. So the direction buttons on the Joy-Con will go up and down in here. If I press A, I am opening up one of those folders. I can press B to return, and then if I press B from here, it will just close the help menu. Let's open that back up again. Now if I at this point press right on my Joy-Con, I'm now selecting this window, and at this point I'm no longer going to be able to just cancel or return, change which folder I'm in. We're now controlling this window, which means things are a bit different. So for first of all, the right stick now controls this, and I can scroll up and down and have a read of the tutorial or the help page that I'm looking at. I can also use the L and R buttons to change the font size. So you can do it until you fit all the code, all of the stuff on screen, and it's completely unreadable, which is really helpful, Dave. Or you can make it so big that you can barely even read anything at all, but it's up to you. We made it this way so that if you have trouble reading on a small screen, you can make it nice and large, or you can make it nice and small if you want to get lots of information on there. Okay, so that is using that part of the help. Let me just select a different thing here because I want to go over pasting code in, and this gets to some important things, but this isn't really the page for it because this is just the getting started, looking at the introduction, all of that. So let's go left on the Joy-Con and open up one of the tutorials. We'll go with, what should we go with? Let's go with the 3D camera movement tutorial here. Right, now if I press right here, and I'm on this part, if I'm pressing up and down on the direction buttons, you'll see, it's quite subtle, but you'll see that if I press down, I'm now selecting this block of code. And you can tell because the panel has had a very thin white outline applied to it. If I press down, I'm going to select the next block of code, and you can see, if you sort of contrast those two blocks, you can see the difference in the outline. Now you can use this to get through the tutorial and scroll through to sort of the important little bits, because I tend to, you know, write another line again and then talk about that line in more detail. So I can just sort of jump down. But what you will notice here is that on the command bar, although I might be sitting right in the place that it is, I'll just have a quick scroll over here. On the command bar, you might see that you can press Y to copy that code to the clipboard. So let's do that with the last part of the project here. If I go down to the bottom of the program, okay, so this big block here, this is actually the finished camera movement little project. So if I press Y, it has now copied copied the code to the clipboard. There's lots of alliteration going on here. It's a bit of a tongue twister. You might not have seen that because I'm in the way of it, but it's a little message that appears, and if that's happened, then you know that it's in the clipboard just fine. Let's go back into our code. So I'm going to press left on the direction button, back to this menu, and I'll press B and B again to go back to the code. And you can see in the bottom right that all of that code is now in the clipboard. So let's just highlight this and delete it. And I'll get rid of the bookmark as well because we don't need this anymore. And close the keyboard. Right. At this point, now that it's in the clipboard, I could either use, well, I can use any of the three methods to paste it in. I could either hold down the the ZR button, keep forgetting which one it is. I want to say right trigger or R2, but it's ZR. I can hold down the ZR button and press A to paste it. Or if I undo that, I could use the Control and V to paste it as well. Or if I undo that and delete this, it's for some reason gone back to there, I could use this part of the keyboard and do paste and paste it in. So they're the three pasting methods. And now that I've got that, I can just run the program and I'm walking around my excellent, rather intimidating monolith. Inspired by a particular film, I'm sure that you might realise, some of you out there. And that is a really nice, quick and easy way to just paste these different parts into your program and try it out. And it's most useful when you've got a gigantic project. Let me just delete this and clear the clipboard. Let's go into the help. I'll do it this way this time. Go into the help and we'll go into the game tutorial. We'll do enemies and I'll go all the way down to the bottom of this. And this is a big project. So here it is, here. And I'll copy this to the clipboard. Come back in here and then paste, and that's 244 lines, which has saved you a fair bit of time. I can just run this and I've got my little game where I can jump around, collect the coins, excellent, and then freely, you know, change things around and do things like that. So it's a nice and quick way of getting into some really good projects and saving you a lot of time. Okay, now there's just a couple of last points here that I want to go over. Let's undo this, go back up to the top. Let's say that you are, I've got my bookmark still here, I didn't realise that. I think it came back when I did undo. Right, let's get the text nice and big there. Right, let's say for example that you're writing a function and you have forgotten what the arguments are, what the order of the arguments are, which is totally fair enough because there are lots of functions. But let's say I'm doing a circle. Right. If I put an open bracket, in fact I'll put both the brackets here, and I'm thinking, oh, what is it? I know it's X and Y, but is it size or is it the number of vertices first or is it colour? Fear not, while you are in the brackets for a function, if you press the help button or F1, you will open the help page for that function. Now, this is a really important one, and you can see right there, you've got the syntax for the circle. So it's not quite predictive text, but it is a really nice and helpful way of just bringing up what you need to know. And then you can read about the arguments for that too, and you can look at the example, you could then copy that into the code, you could come back, you could paste it in, and we'll do that, and draw in circles. So nice and helpful. And this will apply to any of the functions. So if I've just got this project here, I'll go to, I don't know, we can go to sleep, not literally, but we can go to the sleep function and I'll press F1 and we're in sleep. Another really helpful one. while we're actually here, let's talk about this feature as well. If I go down and move my cursor, if you can see, hope you can see that, to the not set timer, but to the functions at the bottom of any help page, we've got these associated commands. So this applies to all of the different functions. All the functions have got lots of different things associated with them. So sleep, anything to do with time, you've got timers, clock, that sort of thing. If it was circle, then you might have the different drawing commands, box, different colour things. While I'm selecting one of these, and you use the up and down direction buttons to go through, just like you would in the rest of the help document, I can then press the A button and visit that link, and then go to that page. I'll do that again. So we can go to time, visit that one, and as you can see, these ones are all sort of associated, so you can't really get to a random one from here. But stop timer, I can move around this way. Now, while you're in this panel here, if I press B, I will go back to the one I had before, and it will take you to the place that you were before as well. So if I wanted to see time, okay, there's that one. Before that, I was on start timer. Before that, I was on sleep, and I think that was it. Oh, and then it's taken me back to the 3D camera tutorial there. So it actually remembers where you were between closing the help and reopening it, so that you can come back to a project and sort of follow your train of thought again, or go back through the help that you needed. Okay, that is probably one of the most important points here. I think that's going to help a lot of people, but there's something else that you can do at this point as well. So let's just, I want to go back, bring up my circle line again. Right. Let's open the help and take a look at that. In fact, I probably should have mentioned this before, but oh well, we're doing it now. So bear with me. I've got my syntax on screen, but rather than having to remember this and thinking, okay, it's X, Y, radius, vertices, color, outline, okay, go back to the help, X, Y, radius, vertices, etc., etc. I can do something a bit better. If I go back into my help page, what I can do is, while my cursor is on this panel on the right, if I click in the left stick, you can now show the keyboard. And while you're in this mode, there's a couple of different things. So first of all, the right stick still scrolls the help screen, but the left D-pad is now controlling the cursor. So using that, I can start typing X, Y, radius, vertices, color, and I can see what's going on the screen here. So it's quite a helpful little functionality. This will hopefully save you tearing your hair out trying to remember all of the different arguments for the functions, especially if they're quite complex. But doing this a few times, you will honestly find that you just remember what these arguments are. Let's press the left stick again to close that, and press B and return to this. And there we go. Last thing I'll mention is some error messages. If you put the function's arguments incorrectly, so circle has lots of arguments, but if I just put 2 and I try and run this, it's going to give me an error message. It tells me where that is, line 1. The function that it's associated with is the circle function, and the error is we've got an incorrect number of parameters, or arguments. Parameters, arguments, same word, for this function. It only found 2. And then you can see there, it's telling you what those correct arguments or parameters are, and the type. So you've got, it should be a floating point number for X. It doesn't have to be a float, but you can use a float, so that means like 1.5 instead of just 1. But if you do just put 1, it'll be 1.0. That is the type of that piece of data. Then you've got a floating point for the Y, for the radius, an integer, so a whole number, number of vertices, number of points, and then you've got a vector for the color, and an int, so a 1 or a 0, a whole number in this case, for the outline. So that's just true or false. Now, that should help you a lot as well. So if I can return to the editor here, I know, oh, okay, I only have 2 arguments, X, Y, and fill in the rest. Okay, I believe there's just one last thing I want to mention, which is the quick reference guide document. We can bring that up actually if I go into, tell you what, we'll do it from the main menu. Go down to the main menu and go to the help. and in here we'll look at the quick reference guide. So this is just a handy quick reference guide showing you the parameters for every single function. We can increase the font size here. I can go around and bring all of this up. So 2D graphics, all in alphabetical order. I could scroll through, find the one I want, and make sure that I'm using the right arguments. It's also just a good reference to see what they all are in context, so you can compare them and contrast them with each other and sort of get more used to it that way. Last thing I will mention is please do check out the Getting Started section of FUZE. You've got a document here about the keyboard shortcuts, which covers everything that I've just talked about. So basically, you could have just completely skipped this video and just read this document instead. No, I have mentioned things here that aren't quite mentioned in the document. And you can go through here. Look, you've got the editing shortcuts, you've got the F keys. That's all great. And then you've got on here the image editor. This is going to talk through using the image editor, how to make an image using a tiled image, creating a little sheet of sprites, using that. Then you've got the map editor, how to make a map, how to draw it in your project, some hints and tips on using those. And same again with the code editor and bringing up the on-screen help. Everything that we've covered here, basically. So, I think that about covers it. We will do some future videos along this sort of theme, looking in more detail about the image editor and the map editor, because let's face it, a video is a bit more sort of easy to digest, and you can do it at the same time rather than reading it, and sometimes it's a bit more difficult to sort of retain things if you read it than if you watch it. People are all different, of course, but I know that a lot of people are like that, myself included, so we will be doing videos on those topics. I hope this has been helpful to you, and obviously all the normal things, like, share, comment, subscribe. If you like this video, please let us know. Check the links in the description for a shout out to the SwitchedOn YouTube channel who suggested this idea. If you want to suggest an idea for a video, you can put it in the comments below. I do personally read and tend to respond to every single comment. They really do mean a great deal. And all feedback is appreciated. I will take anything on board that is put reasonably. Sure that you understand. Last thing, check out FUZE Arena. Go and sign up. That is actually where the YouTuber SwitchedOn suggested the idea, and where I saw it and thought, that's a brilliant idea, we're going to make that. So if you want to suggest a video to us, or you want to just say something or get help with your programs, fuzearena.com. Check it out, it's getting bigger and bigger and better, and we've got awesome plans coming up for that. The next video that we're going to do is going to look at our 1,000 subscriber special. So hopefully in the future, when we've got 100,000 subscribers, this video will be very humble and it'll be, wow, look, we only had 1,000 at one point. Let's hope so. So fingers crossed, guys, we can make this channel get there. I really want it to get there. So very excited for the future. Thank you for watching. I've been Dave, and Ben sends his regards, and have a great day. See you next time.